Hey there. Hi there, Alfredo here for another episode of Uncut English. Remember that in this series, I post videos that are completely uncut. So before I start, I just want to put a disclaimer there because I don't plan these talks. I don't write scripts. I don't research vocabulary. I just have ideas and I start talking about them. So today I would like to talk about what it means, in my opinion, to be a good listening. I see, I already made a mistake. To be a good listener, and you see and this is me finding a space, finding words in my mind that I want to say, connecting thoughts and so on. And I really want to change that as well. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Um, So being a good listener means uh, means means listening intently to what people are saying. It really means paying attention to people are saying when you talk to them. Because you see, the problem is a lot of times we so the problem is that a lot of times, so for example, as a teacher, this happens to me quite often. Let me share this idea with you. So I'm conducting a class with a student of mine. We're having a class. And then I ask them a question about anything. But usually it's about something that we're exploring together. For example, a listening exercise, a video exercise. I'm watching a video with them. And then I ask them a question about the video. And then they answer something completely different from what I'm asking. And then the question I want to discuss with you here, the topic I want to discuss with you here is this. Why is it that something like that happens? Why does that happen? So I asked one of my students, a question, and they answer something completely different, completely disconnected. Can you think of an explanation why that happens? Well, you might say, "Oh, Alfredo, I think it's pretty obvious what happened. Your student answered something completely different, something completely disconnected, because they didn't understand the question." Well, that seems to be a reasonable answer, doesn't it? Well, but what my experience has taught me is that that's not the case. That's not the reason why my students answer something completely different. Well, it's not because they didn't understand. It's actually because they didn't listen to me. It's because they're not good listener. And so, where am I going with this? What am I trying to say with this? What do I mean? Well, I mean that while I was talking to them, while I was asking them the question, their brain was busy formulating a different question. You see, they create in their minds a question that they think I'm gonna ask, or they think I'm asking, and they're not actually effectively paying attention to the question I'm asking them. And it's really interesting. I know it may sound a little bit absurd to you, but it happens all the time. And then when that happens, sometimes to break the flow, I ask them a very simple question. I ask them their names. As, "Hi, what's your name?" And they go, "What?" Because you see, that kind of question kind of catch them by surprise. Because think about this: how easy it is to answer what your name is. Because I mean, after all, we are talking about students who have been with me for a while. Oh my God, our classes are 100% in English. Our classes are 100% in English, and they understand everything. There's no question about that. They understand me. But in these particular situations, they don't. They miss. You know, they completely miss that question, the question that I'm asking them. And like I said, and then you wonder why that happened. Is it because their listening skills are poor? They don't understand anything? No. It's because their brains were their brains was very busy thinking about another question. Like I said, a question that they were formulating in their minds. And then to break the flow, I ask a completely out of context question, a very easy question, to see if they can answer. Like, what's your name? Oh, my name is Alice. And another thing that I do is this: when that happens, I usually take a break and ask them a question like this: listen, can I ask you something? Are you a good listener? And then I joke that maybe I should not ask them that question, and instead I should ask their partners. For example, you know, if they're married, I should ask their husbands or wives if they were good listeners. Because partners normally complain about that, you know, that the other one never listens to them. Because listening intently, you know, like attentive, paying attention, really paying attention to what people are saying is important. And a lot of times people fail to do that. And when you're learning a second language, this can have a very significant impact on your performance. So from now on, okay, I want you to consider the way you deal with listening skills. I want you to think about the way you deal with your listening. So when you're listening to something, and what I mean is this: being a good listener doesn't mean being able to understand 100% of everything all the time. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. But being a good listener means being connected with that part of the story that you really understood. So that when someone asks you a question about that specific thing, you can talk about what you understood regarding that specific part of the story. Okay? So that's it. Today I wanted to talk about this. Today I wanted to discuss with you this concept: being a good listener. And by the way, sometimes, and I think that this applies to all of us, sometimes we are not. Sometimes we're not good listeners. It's natural. It's a very natural thing. It's a very natural thing for us to fail to be good listeners. I remember once, this was like 10 years ago, I had a student, and we were using a video editing software during his class, because he was very interested in multimedia, and I don't know why we started talking about making videos and editing them, and I was giving him some tips about free software that he could use, and we were discussing a few editing techniques and ideas and so on. So I opened this app, this software that I had at the time. It was a free video editing software, and basically I showed him how I could cut parts of the film, join other parts, other new parts, and then save in a different format, like convert the video into a different format. So I was there doing that, and in the final stage of this editing process, when I had to save the file, all I had to do was to press a button and say save, and a dialog box would appear for me to choose a name for the new file and press save. And every time I did, apparently the saving process worked, but the file disappeared. When I went into the folder where I had saved the file in, the file was not there. There was nothing there. And I remember that at the time we were saving this video file in the MP4 format. And I remember that in the dialog box I was typing just the name of the file, but not the extension MP4, because that was supposed to be done automatically. The software knew that it was supposed to save as an MP4 file. It knew that it was supposed to do that. And so I kept doing the process again and again. And my student, this guy who liked the video editing as well, said to me, Alfredo, when you put the name, don't forget to put the extension, type .mp4. And he must have said that like 5 times. But it was like almost I was in a kind of a transit, and I didn't hear him. He was saying things to me clearly, but and why was that? Well, think about what happened in my mind. I'm teaching you how to use this software, so I know everything. So how can you, a person who has never used the software, know how to save a file? See what happened? It was a bit arrogant on my part. I didn't do this on purpose, but basically my logic was this: this guy has never used this tool. I've used this tool many times before. So how can I learn something from him? He's never used the tool. So I dismissed his suggestion as almost as useless, because I thought that I was the one who was supposed to be the knowledgeable one, the guy who knew about how to use the software. So because of that, I completely ignored him. So I did not listen to him. I was not a good listener. But if I were, I would, pause for a minute and say, okay, what is this guy telling me? Does it make sense? Okay, it does. So why don't I try this? But if you're not a good listener, you're not going to do what the people say to you, because you're lost in your thoughts. You only listen to yourself. So basically, that's the idea. I think that's the problem. You only listen to yourself.